You are now listening to
the Primal Armor Podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Home Gym Con. This is the first conference dedicated to home gym fanatics. At this event, you'll have the opportunity to get your hands on hundreds of pieces of equipment, get exclusive discounts on items for your gym, learn from industry experts, and much more. The conference starts on April 14th in French Lick, Indiana. Visit homegymcon.com to order your tickets and use the code PRIMAL to save 10% on your purchase. Using that code also donates 10% of the proceeds to Huntington's disease research. Join myself, as well as all of your other favorite brands and sponsors this April by going to homegymcon.com today and ordering your tickets using our special code. Welcome back to episode 85 of the Primal Armor Podcast. This week, and even the last month or two, I've been really struggling at being the parent that I want to be for my daughter. I saw a quote from someone the other day that read something like this. When you've had enough and you just feel like you can't take it anymore with your kids when they're throwing a fit, or they always want to do something that you don't want to do in that moment, you really need to act like you just got to travel back in time for just a few hours, and you got to spend time with your kid again at that day and age, because they'll never be that age again. Or just act like this is your last day on earth, and how would you want to spend that time that you got with them right now? And man, that hit me way harder than I needed it to on a random weekday afternoon. And it made me really realize how bad I've sucked at lately being a dad. I strive to be the best parent that I can be, because I believe it's one of, if not the most important job there is in the entire world. It's between that and being a spouse. A lot of the people like to use the biblical scripture to argue why being a spouse is the most important, or the fact that your kids are only there for a short amount of time while your spouse is forever. But I want to play devil's advocate towards that and argue why I believe being a parent can be one of the most important jobs in the entire world. So much of what a kid learns is from watching their parents, and they don't know any better, and they can't survive for themselves. They aren't born knowing anything, and you have to teach them everything, and if you don't, they'll completely struggle in life. Your spouse is a grown adult, and they already know all of these things, and if you're saying that they don't, well, I'm sorry, but you chose the wrong person. You are your kid's entire world, and they look up to you for everything, for their entire life. I know I still look up to my parents these days, so that's why I know it's important, even when they move out and they're gone. So you need to do everything you can to be their best friend, their hero, and their entire world. And that's something I've really sucked at lately. My daughter has hit the terrible twos like a year early, and with her energy, it definitely means like terrible 2 decades, at least. But I love her because she's literally the spawn of myself. So it's just payback for what I did to my parents. But it's hard sometimes. You think that you have it all down, and then you're in a routine, and then it changes in 2 seconds. My daughter wouldn't sleep for crap for like the first year of her life. And then we started putting her on a floor bed, and that changed our lives. I basically could bounce her to sleep on an exercise ball, and I could just toss her over and roll her in bed, and she'd sleep through it and through the entire night. But in like the last week, she's decided that she won't settle for anything less than me standing up and carrying her around like a newborn again in my arms, and bouncing her, or she'll kick, fight, and scream at me. And she's getting big, so it's hard to hold on to her for that long while getting her to sleep. So it's been super hard. Then she wants to go outside 24/7 all the time to drive her Power Wheels around, even when it's below freezing outside for where we live at. And she'll do that until her fingers are frozen, even inside of gloves. So now I'm trying to balance, do I keep her happy and keep her in a razor, or do I bring her inside and warm her up at the expense of her kicking and fighting and screaming? It makes you really think which one's the right decision to make me the better parent in that situation. And then I always put her down for a nap during the day so I can get a good workout in. And I do that so I can bring my best self to the table for my family. But then I feel guilty about not having her out there and setting that example for her. But then when I do bring her out there, my workouts suck because I'm chasing her around and keeping her out of my tools and keeping her out of the cars. And then I feel like I'm not bringing my best self to the table. So it's really hard. It's hard not knowing what the right option is. And then I want to be as present as possible for my daughter. So I want to try to limit my screen time and not be on my phone so I can spend every waking moment with her, like in that quote I said earlier. But now that I've turned Primal Armor into a business on top of a podcast, it's been requiring a lot of time and effort to be successful and to have good content on top of working my normal career. So I feel like I've been dropping the ball a ton in that court.
And I also want to limit her screen time. But sometimes it's just so hard to be able to make us breakfast or do the dishes or clean the house while she's tugging on my leg, trying to get me to go do something else, or she'll throw a fit. And it's so easy to just throw on a few episodes of Bluey and then be able to go get some stuff done. But then I feel guilty about wasting that precious time that we have together because it is so short. So every single day, I'm feeling conflicted in if I'm being a good parent to her or not. And it's honestly the biggest struggle that I have in my life. And while it might seem like first world problems to some, in my eyes, it's the most important job that I have. And I'm dropping the ball on that day in and day out. I basically wanted to use this podcast as a quick rant to get the feeling off my chest and to let all of you other parents out there know that you're not alone. While your exact problems might not be my exact problems, I know it's easy to feel conflicted if you're doing the right thing or not. And that's why I wanted to challenge myself and all of you to take that quote that I said earlier at the start of the podcast to heart, and then to try to put it in the back of your mind as often as you can throughout the day, especially during the hard times. Because if you live like that, you'll never have any regrets, because that's exactly what you would have wanted to do in that situation if that was your last. Again, I just want you to remember that you're not alone, because I know I feel like that sometimes, and that makes it even harder as part of the struggle. I just want you guys to keep that quote in the back of your mind and keep trying to be the best parent that you can be.
This episode is sponsored by Executive Fit LLC. They build custom deadlift platforms, custom barbell storage pieces, and make indoor and outdoor signage for your home or corporate gym. Every platform that pairs with a rack is customized to that specific rack, so everything fits nice and clean. And they ship nationwide. Each platform has a logo applied in a way that makes it impossible to peel up from wear and tear. They even make custom nameplates for your squat rack. Visit executivefitllc.com to request a quote and see what's available on their store. That's executivefitllc.com to upgrade your deadlift game today. I just want to thank you for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you back here again next week.